What's going on, YouTube? Metal Complex here, and today I've got a special knife review slash knife overview to do with you guys. Why is it special? Well, I never generally do knife reviews on Sundays. Usually Sundays are just my Knife Guy series, but my good buddy at Mike Schwink on Instagram, he's also a patron, so thank you so much, Mike Schwink. He sent me this knife along with the ZT0452CF, and here recently, within the last week, I actually got it out and started playing with it, and I realized this is amazing. This is a TWOSUN TS16, by the way. For those of you who don't know, TWOSUN is kind of taking the knife world by storm right now because of the materials they offer and the value that goes with it. I'm going to go ahead and say this. I don't know of another brand using materials like this and offering this type of value. Like, not even close. I mean, like, some of my favorite knives by price range are still great, but they honestly, I mean, in terms of materials and value, they really don't even come close to the TWOSUN knives that I've handled. And this is amazing to me. I mean, I feel like TWOSUN is going to single-handedly force everybody else to start, you know, really competing with these price ranges. That's amazing. So, spoiler alert, I'm going to go through and I'm going to give this knife a full Metal Complex review, full of detail and, you know, yelling and all that stuff. But I'm going to go ahead and just let you guys know, this is a recommendable knife. In fact, there are a ton of TWOSUN knives that I wasn't even aware of up until like a week ago that are just insane in terms of value. I have actually added them to a part of my store. You can find that store very easily by pulling down the description and simply clicking on this very first link right here, which will bring you right to my Amazon storefront. Everything is nicely categorized out. You can see there, the first thing you'll see is my most recommended knives overall, favorite budget knives, knife storage and display, knife maintenance, blah, blah, blah. And there's a whole TWOSUN category. No, there's not just 4 knives. If you click on it, there's a ton of them. You will be blown away by prices. So anyways, there are multiple variants of this knife. There is the standard version of this knife that comes in G10 and D2, right? It's about what you would expect. It's actually a little, you know, even less expensive than a lot of people might expect. And then they have sort of a mid-range one that's titanium and D2, TC4 titanium, which is the exact same thing as our grade 5 6L4V here in America. And then they have this version, which is TC4 and M390. Pretty cool. I was very impressed with that. I wasn't aware that they had a lot of models in M390, but it turns out they do. And I know a lot of you are thinking, like, get with the program, dude. Like, we've known, a lot of people have known about this for a long time. I feel like myself, and there's still a lot of people who don't know. I mean, the first time I heard of TWOSUN and what they were doing, I was like, okay, you know, it's another company that's making knives out of China, and, you know, how good could their fit and finish be for these prices? Well, I've now handled 2 TWOSUNs, and both of them are incredibly impressive. So I just want to kind of make that thoroughly clear. Let's go ahead and get a measurement on this guy. Overall length from tip to scale is going to be about 8.6 inches overall. Blade length coming in at about 3.8 and cutting edge coming in at about 3.8. You can see right there sort of where I'm measuring that actual cutting edge length and blade length is about from the same point. So good ratios there, absolutely. Let's go ahead and do some size comparisons here. Up against the Ontario Rat Model 1. Rat 1 is coming in at the exact same size, 8.6 inches overall. How about up against the Spyderco PM2? Spyderco PM2 is coming in at 8.3 inches overall, so a little bit less there. And how about up against the Benchmade Griptilian, or in this case, the Ritter Hogue? Ritter Hogue is coming in at 8 inches overall. And last but not least, the Spyderco Para 3. Spyderco Para 3 is coming in at 7.25 inches overall. How is the action on this guy? The action is fantastic because it is running on bearings. The detent is tuned properly. We have a sort of, it just takes a little bit of encouragement. Not much, and very smooth. I have to point that out. A lot of times, you know, you can get a fall shut or nearly fall shut action, and there's still some grittiness inside the pivot. This is very smooth. It's got kind of a softer sound on the detent snap. You can listen here. But it's very solid. There's no detent lash or anything like that. The flipper tab is shaped correctly, so it's very easy to do a light switch, or if you really want to, do the push button or the preload method. It's really fantastic. It's really shocking. I'm happy with that. Now, you know, to be fair, every company kind of has this down. If you're the one manufacturer who doesn't have the detent and flipping action and flipper shape figured out, you're kind of being left in the dust right now because everybody's got this figured out. But it's still worth mentioning that the action is great. Let's go ahead and do a hardware check. I've kind of moved this segment to you know, this portion of my uploads or my reviews. I'm gonna go ahead and get out my handy dandy WIA bit selector and WIA magnetic driver, two items that are very recommendable to everybody because they're super inexpensive and they're awesome for taking your knives apart and keeping them maintained. Those are also in my Amazon store under knife maintenance, so you can check those out. I already know that this is the case because I checked before the video, but go ahead and load it up with a T8. You can see there the pivot is T8 and the body screws are also T8, which is wonderful. Even the pocket clip screw and the, oh wait, we're gonna get one T6. I didn't check that one. So everything but it looks like the screw for the steel lock bar insert is, go ahead and show you, sorry. People always want to go, you have to show it if you're gonna say it's T6. Everything except for the steel lock bar insert screw is T6. I give the lock bar insert screw a pass because you don't need to take that out. That's not something that you need to be messing with unless it needs to be replaced, in which case that's a warranty thing. So you do not need to take that thing out. So great. Everything's T8. You guys always hear me gripe about that. You know, T6 sucks. It's not a deal breaker, but T6 screws, you know, the bit heads can strip out, and the heads for the screws can strip out, and I just don't like them. So T8 is fantastic. Very, very, very happy with that. How about carry profile here? This is a very long and slender knife, not super thick. We'll go ahead and show you thickness up against the Spyderco PM2. You can see there it's actually thinner than the PM2. And despite it having a flipper tab, it's not a super prominent flipper tab. So up against two knives that have awkward carry profiles, and nobody ever seems to complain about, the Spyderco Para 3 and PM2. You can see there in terms of height and even length in the case of the Spyderco PM2, it's got them beat. So yeah, I have no issues with that, especially considering we're looking at titanium. Speaking of that, you can see here we're looking at titanium that I guess you technically could call that milling because there are holes milled out there. And then we have a blade stock thickness that's actually a fairly thick blade. Excuse me, sorry, I'm getting text messages. I'm gonna guess it's about 150 thousandths or so. Yeah, about 150 thousandths thick on the blade. So you're looking at a long blade, not a super tall blade, 150 thousandths. And then we've got some titanium that's not super thick, it's long, but it's got some milling in there. So let's go ahead and find out what the weight is here on this guy. Overall weight on the TS16, okay, a completely reasonable 4.2 ounces. I was having a decisive moment there. But yeah, considering the blade length is 3.8, it's not quite on that ounce and inch mark, but for the overall profile and weight of the blade, I just don't have a problem with that. It carries nicely in the pocket. 4.2 ounces is not a big deal. Now, if you're somebody who wears athletic shorts every single day, or you're wearing very light material for pants, very thin material for pants, this might not be the right knife for you. But regular pants, regular khakis, regular jeans, right? That's going to be, you know, the pant material that people are going to be probably the most comfortable with. How about the anatomy of the knife? So like I said, we're looking at TC4 titanium that's been bead blasted here. Really nice. There's a lot of sort of horizontal lines here, and then they sort of go with these vertical cutouts, and it actually does create texture that is nice to the touch, but not so grippy and obnoxious that it's catching your fingers or the dead skin on your fingers while you're holding it. It's just nice to lock into. We'll talk more about that here in a sec. Let's go ahead and take a look at the blade here. We have a very nicely satin finished blade. You can see it's got that sort of prismatic effect that steel has when it's got that very high satin belt finish on it, much like what you get when you, I've got Mike's 0452 here, and I can tell you it's very similar to the finish that you see on zero tolerance knives, right? Very similar feeling and appearance of quality and same prismatic effect that you get. So pretty cool. I'm really happy with that. Up here, I would say it's not super sharp. It'll cut your fingernail a little bit, but you can see there it's been knocked down enough to where it's not insane. The flat, the swedge, everything has the same satin finish. There's a lot of thickness carried out to the tip here, and that's because that swedge carries out to about 95%. So that's cool considering we've got this sort of sheep's foot style blade. You get a nice long blade with some puncturability and at the same time some ridiculous tip strength, so I have no issues there. Something I don't like are all these little lines here. They're trying to kind of go with this theme and they could just do away with that entirely. For whatever reason, the one at the very back is actually deeper, so you can see there it's starting to collect gunk. I have no idea what the reason for that was, but honestly that should just go away. It says M390 up at the top, and then it says TWOSUN. On the other side, it says Night Morning Design. I don't know what that is, but okay. Other than that, I think the blade's fine. There's really nothing in the cutting path. It's just that one little area right there that is going to collect gunk while you cut, especially if you are cutting into cardboard and you've got big, thick cardboard right up here next to the frame, so you can put as much power into it as you can. It's going to collect debris from that cut, so that's just going to be the case. There is a little tiny bit of a double clutch, and what I mean by that is by the time the flipper tab meets your finger, it hasn't successfully passed over the detent ball, so it's wanting to fall back. Why is that important? Because then when you go to close it like this, it's not over the detent ball yet, so it still needs to be pushed a little more and then shaken shut. It is not the worst thing in the world, especially considering, you know, like I said, the value on these things is just insane. It's something that I can overlook. Down to the handle scales here, you can see we have a nice decorative pivot there. Looks great in contrast with the bead blasted titanium. Ergonomics on this guy are great. It's not like, you know, it's not the experience that I get with, say, like the Ritter Hogue or what's another knife that's got excellent ergonomics? The Spyderco Shaman, probably my favorite knife of all time for ergonomics. It's not like that, but I'd still give it a solid A. I mean, the lines on the handle, you know, are perfectly accepting to the human hand, and at the same time, there aren't any sharp corners or anything that would make me not want to hold on to this while I was cutting, so I just don't have an issue with it. You can see there's only 2 body screws, which is great, and they both go into a nice gear pattern backspacer that's slightly raised, so you can gain traction on that, whether you're holding it like this and the traction's on the inside of your palm, or you're holding it upside down for whatever reason and you want to gain traction like this. So that's nice. It's also nice to the touch. It's not super duper sharp, and it goes with the rest of the frame. There's an unobtrusive lanyard hole back here for those of you who like lanyards, and then flipped over to the other side, you can see 2 more body screws and then kind of an awkward hourglass shaped pocket clip. It's a little pointy right here, but truthfully it does its job. It's going to carry about like that, and in and out of the pocket, I mean, with practice, I can't say that I really have an issue with it. I mean, even though the bottom of that clip is a little bit pointy, because it lays perfectly flat, yeah, my hand doesn't notice it, so I honestly don't have an issue there. You can see there's a steel lock bar insert that does double as the over travel stop, and then the natural lockup position for this guy is something like 30%. Now this knife has been used. The other TWOSUN knife that I handled had perfect centering. This one appears to be ever so slightly off to the right. I'm gonna guess that's because this knife has been used. It probably just needs a quick turn and it'll come right back to center. That's how the other one was. In any case, again, because of the value, it's really not something that you know, if it were rubbing, that'd be a different thing. If it was brand new and it was rubbing on one side, I'd be like, eh. But I'm gonna guess, I'm about 99% sure that's not gonna be the case. So I wanted to point it out as a possibility, but again, it's not something that would be a deal breaker for me. So let's go over the things again that I didn't like about this knife. In general, the aesthetics of these lines here, I don't think those need to be there, and especially that little deep slot right there. That's very odd. The knife has a little bit of a double clutch, so you have to be careful about that so it doesn't come down on your finger. Other than that, I guys, I think that's probably going to be about it. There's really not a whole lot not to like about this and TWOSUN knives in general. Now, they have some models that don't really speak to me in terms of practicality, but I would say this is one of their more straightforward. Well, actually, they have a lot of very straightforward, very practical looking designs, and this is one of them. Let me put it that way. You know, whether or not you're able to carry a knife that has a blade this long, that's going to limit you. But I can assure you, TWOSUN has a lot of knives that are, you know, going to be appropriate depending on the type of person you are and what you like to carry, and also where you live and what's legal and what's not legal. It seems like they've kind of thought about, you know, what type of people, you know, might be interested in buying their knives and the current trends of the market. And honestly, I'm really impressed with them all the way around. I kind of thought they were a little bit of a, you know, okay, haha, it's just another company. But no, I mean, these guys are serious. And I got to thank Neves Knives for turning me onto them in the first place. I can't remember what that model was, either the TS42 or TS49, but it was incredible as well. And it was right there in that same, you know, amazing value system that I've been talking about. So is this a recommendable knife? Yeah, absolutely. For pricing, go ahead and check my link. Prices change, they fluctuate, and it seems like there's some fluctuation on these guys, so I'm not 100% sure. So if you want to check that, just follow the link and check it. Like I said, there's a category for TWOSUN knives that you guys can check out. But yes, if you want my opinion on whether or not it's recommendable, yes, it's insanely recommendable. You're sure to, if not this one, you're sure to find something that you'll enjoy from TWOSUN. Anyways, guys, that's going to be pretty much it for today's video. Again, thanks so much at Mike Schwink for letting me check this out. This was really cool, and I'm really happy to have my eyes opened to TWOSUN knives. They're definitely a brand or a company that I'm going to be taking a closer look at in the future. And I found a couple that I honestly might just buy for myself. I mean, you know how that is. You see something and you're like, man, that looks nice. I kind of want that. So I got to be honest, there might be a couple that I'm going to be picking up for myself in the very near future. So expect to see more TWOSUN knives on this channel. This was just too good to not share with you guys here on Sunday. And I generally don't have anything for Sunday afternoons. I know everybody likes to enjoy Knife Guy Sunday mornings, but yeah, so I thought, yeah, I'll just treat my viewers to an extra knife review this week. So anyways, guys, that's going to be pretty much it. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like. If you'd like to check out my other content, I do, of course, have lots of videos of knives that are either expensive or inexpensive that I do or don't like, so check those out. And if you enjoy all my content, go ahead and click on this Metal Complex logo right here and subscribe, because there's definitely more coming. Thanks again for watching, everybody, and have a great day.